RPGaDay 2026, day 10. So today I'm going to be talking about the third of the area themes in this part of the world I'm building for some world building. And the third one is new folk emerge. Now, my initial thoughts on this were to look at some of the folk that were involved in some of the factions. These could be new folk emerging, and that's how they became part of the factions. We have some tribesmen with the Beholder. We have some Kinku with the Elder Titan, and we have a Susurrus with a Slod, which is usually a unique creature, but it could be that something about this star is perhaps they arrived on the star, or they are being brought out for the star, given the effects that I've said that the star is having on the particularly the vegetation in the area that's kind of charging it with life and causing it to burn up. That would create an atmosphere with a lot of sort of matter in it. And those creatures, the Susurrus, is it Susurruses? Susur? Anyway, they breathe in their food. They have an exoskeleton that's a lot of bony openings essentially that suck the air and filter the air. It's kind of like a whale filtering the microscopic creatures that it eats out of the ocean. It's filtering the air, so that would obviously attract them. Of course, with what I said about the shadows in the last episode, it could also be the nature of that there are undead emerging, coming to the star, drawn to the star, and of course, the return of lawful good forces that are also the form of shadows for the current factions. That could also be the new folk that are emerging. And while I really do like the idea of the Susurrus clan of Susurrus coming up, I've decided to go completely off book with this one. Because a concept, after thinking about the undead in terms of the return of the shadows, thinking about the undead and their connection to the negative energy, the negative material plane, and that's kind of what makes them undead. So I asked myself, is there an equivalent for the positive material plane, which this star would be associated with and the energy it has would be associated with? And then the next thing that popped in my mind was Mum-Ra, the ever-living from Thundercats. Because technically, he's an undead. He's a mummy, and then he gets supercharged with evil energy, and he becomes like a super mummy. Or I don't know what the technical term would be for that. But what if ever living is a category, like undead is a category, instead of being kind of a charged with a negative energy and having a negative effect on other creatures by taking their life force? What if this is a group of creatures that is overflowing with a life force type of energy, so much that it burns? This is a stage of creature between, a normal living creature and then a creature that's been so exposed to the star's energy that it burns up. Essentially burns itself out of existence like a light bulb getting too much electricity run through it. But this is kind of the intermediate stage. And so these creatures have, initially, when they have kind of more control of their faculties, they might even become great healers. They'll be able to heal. But it comes to the point where the energy is so saturating, they have to get rid of it somewhere. They have to get rid of it through other living things. They have to, give that charge away before it burns them up. So now they're a threat to the living just as much as the undead would be. So, and if they hit you, another creature, it causes damage to that creature. It kind of, it's almost like a mace of disruption to a living creature. It's that kind of effect. But it also gives them kind of a charge. So a leveled character fighting one of these creatures would take damage in terms of hit points damage, but it might gain some limited abilities in the meantime, but at the same time, it's starting to burn them out. And hitting one of these creatures, damaging them, would cause them to essentially radiate a flow of energy of their own. Not radiate, because that's type of energy I said doesn't radiate, but it would give out a flow of energy of its own. So it could cause damage to those around them. It no longer has to touch them to do that to cause that energy to flow out. It's flowing out through the damage created by weapons. So it's dangerous to damage them. It's dangerous to be hit by them. But there's also some minor benefits to absorbing that energy from them until it just overwhelms another living creature. So the new folk that are emerging are the ever living. And these are people who maybe have lived in the city or the village. Well, not the village, because the village is on the other side of the hills and the stars kind of radiating away from there. But they initially lived in this city, or they lived in the lands that were around the city. They're now a desert, or it could also be animal type creatures. So it's a very deadly place to go through, because you have this kind of energy flowing through there, but at the same time, the creatures make it extra dangerous, these ever-living creatures. So that's today's episode, and that's the third area theme, the new folk emerging. That's not to say that perhaps a little later in the month we find a way to fit in more Caesarius. So I hope you've enjoyed it. We've got something out of it. Hope you're enjoying RPGaDay 2026, whether you're merely consuming or contributing. Hope you're getting a lot out of it. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's a great thing that's done every year. So have a great day.